Hollywood loves labels, a face, a name, a category. But what if some of the biggest stars on Earth have spent their entire lives carrying a hidden story beneath the spotlight? From rock legends and pop icons to movie superstars and royalty, these celebrities were seen one way by the world, while an important part of their heritage remained overlooked, misunderstood, or quietly pushed aside. Tonight, we're uncovering the surprising roots, family secrets, and forgotten histories behind some of the most famous faces in entertainment. And some of these revelations may change the way you see them forever. Number 1. Jennifer Beals. In 1983, Jennifer Beals stepped onto the screen in Flashdance and turned a sweatshirt, a chair, and one unforgettable dance sequence into pure pop culture lightning. Overnight, she became the face of ambition, desire, and 1980s cool. Hollywood saw a beautiful young star with mystery in her eyes and a look they could sell on posters around the world. But behind that glowing image was a story far deeper than leg warmers and neon lights. Jennifer was born in Chicago to Alfred Beals, a black grocery store owner, and Jean Anderson, an elementary school teacher of Irish-American background. Her light complexion often made the public place her in a vague category because Hollywood has always loved simple labels more than complicated truths. But Jennifer never treated her black heritage like a secret to escape. Her father's experiences with racism shaped the way she understood the world, giving her a quiet strength that followed her from movie sets to Yale University. What makes her story powerful is not a scandal, but the silence around it. Jennifer Beals became famous in an industry that often wanted biracial stars to be marketable, polished, and easy to define. Instead, she carried every part of herself with dignity. From Flashdance to the L Word, she built a career around characters with depth, intelligence, and identity. She was never just the girl in the sweatshirt. She was proof that some Hollywood icons carry histories the spotlight never bothered to fully reveal. Number 2. Slash. Before anyone saw his face clearly, they saw the silhouette, the top hat, the black curls, the cigarette haze attitude, and that Gibson Les Paul hanging low like a weapon. Slash did not just play guitar for Guns N' Roses. He made the instrument sound dangerous again. Every riff felt like it had crawled out of a back alley in Los Angeles, covered in sweat, blues, and trouble. But behind the rock god image was a heritage many fans never realized. Born Saul Hudson in London, Slash was the son of Ola Hudson, a black American costume designer who worked with legends like David Bowie and Anthony Hudson, a white English artist. His mother's world was full of soul rhythm fashion and black creative power. That energy did not stay in the background. It bled straight into his music, giving his hard rock solos a bluesy heartbeat that made them feel more human than mechanical. That is the twist in Slash's story. The man many people pictured as the face of wild rock rebellion was also carrying a deeper cultural inheritance from the very roots of rock itself. He did not need speeches to prove it. He let the guitar speak. And every time Sweet Child O' Mine or Welcome to the Jungle tears through the speakers, it becomes clear. Slash was not just playing rock history, he was reminding the world where so much of that history came from. Number 3. Logic. Logic walked into hip-hop with a microphone in his hand and a question following him like a shadow. Is he really? Black-born Sir Robert Bryson Hall II in Maryland. He had the flow, the pain, the hunger, and the story. But because of his light skin and appearance, many people looked at him and made a decision before hearing a single bar. In an industry obsessed with authenticity, Logic had to fight just to explain who he already was. His father was black, His mother was white, and his childhood was anything but polished. He grew up around poverty, addiction, instability, and family wounds that left marks deeper than fame could cover. While the world tried to label him a white rapper, Logic kept writing about the complicated reality of being biracial too, black for some rooms, too white for others, and never fully accepted by either side. That conflict became the engine behind his music. Songs and albums like Everybody turned his identity crisis into a public confession, a challenge, and almost a prayer. Logic was not just chasing hits. He was asking listeners to look past the face and hear the bloodline, the pain, and the survival underneath. His story is not about hiding who he was. It is about a man forced to prove a truth that should never have needed evidence. Number 4. Carol Channing. Carol Channing looked like Broadway had invented her in a cloud of glitter-eyed eyes, silver hair, a voice like champagne mixed with gravel, and a stage presence so big it could knock the back row out of its seat. For decades, she was America's musical sweetheart, the unforgettable Dolly Levi in Hello, Dolly, smiling under the lights while the audience saw exactly what they expected to see. But behind the sparkle was a family truth she learned as a teenager. Her father, George Channing, had African-American ancestry, a fact that was dangerous information in the entertainment world of the 1940s and 1950s. Back then, one whisper about race could close doors before a woman even stepped through them. So Carol carried that secret quietly, not because it lacked meaning, but because Hollywood was not kind to complicated identities. Years later, in her autobiography, she finally spoke about it with pride, even humor, calling her heritage part of the rhythm and soul that shaped her. That made her story strangely beautiful and sad at the same time. Carol Channing spent a lifetime making audiences laugh, but beneath the punchlines was a woman who understood how cruel the spotlight could be when the truth did not match the poster. Number 5. Wentworth Miller. Wentworth Miller became a global obsession the moment Prison Break introduced him as Michael Scofield, the quiet genius with icy blue eyes, prison tattoos, and an escape plan so perfect it felt almost supernatural. Audiences saw a mysterious leading man. Hollywood saw a face it could package easily, handsome, controlled, marketable. But behind that calm stare was a much more complicated story, one the spotlight did not immediately understand. Born in England, to American parents, Miller came from a deeply mixed family history. His father is black with African-American and Jamaican roots along with European ancestry. His mother carries Russian, French, Dutch, Syrian, and Lebanese heritage. Yet because of his fair skin, many people assumed he was simply white. That assumption followed him through classrooms, auditions, interviews, and casting rooms, placing him in a strange, invisible prison where the world kept trying to define him before he could define himself. The irony became almost cinematic when he appeared in The Human Stain, playing a black man who passes as white. For Miller, that role touched something painfully personal, the loneliness of being misread by society and the pressure of living between categories people pretend are simple. His story is not a loud scandal. It is quieter, sadder, and in some ways more haunting. Wentworth Miller did not just break out of a fictional prison on television. In real life, he spent years breaking out of Hollywood's habit of judging identity by skin, face, and first impressions. Number 6. Halsey. Long before she was selling out arenas and collecting billions of streams, Halsey was a teenager, sleeping on friends' couches, writing poetry, and wondering where exactly she belonged. The future pop superstar who would one day dominate radio with hits like Without Me looked nothing like the image many people expected when they heard she was biracial. and that disconnect would follow her throughout her entire rise to fame. Born Ashley Nicolette, Frangipane in New Jersey, Halsey is the daughter of an African-American father and a mother of Irish, Italian, and Hungarian ancestry. Because of her light skin, countless people assumed she was white. To strangers, interviewers, and even some fans, her black heritage seemed invisible. But for Halsey, it was never invisible. She grew up watching the world treat members of her own family differently, based on appearance alone, a reality that left a lasting mark on her understanding of race and identity. Instead of running from that complexity, she turned it into art. Throughout her career, Halsey has spoken openly about being white passing, while still identifying as a black woman. She has described the strange feeling of existing between worlds, never fitting neatly into the boxes society prefers. That honesty became one of the reasons fans connected with her so deeply. Behind the Platinum Records magazine covers and sold-out tours is a woman who transformed confusion into confidence. Halsey's story is not just about music. It is about learning that identity is not something other people get to decide for you. It is something you claim for yourself even when the world insists on seeing only part of the picture. Number 7. Pete Wentz. In the mid-2000s, Pete Wentz looked like the official ambassador of eyeliner heartbreak and suburban chaos. As Fall Out Boy's bassist and main lyricist, he helped turn pop-punk into a soundtrack for an entire generation. Fans saw the jet-black hair, the tight jeans, the emo attitude, and assumed they understood the whole picture. But Pete's story had another layer hiding behind the stage lights. Born Peter Louis Kingston Wentz III, he came from a mixed family background. His father has English and German ancestry, while his mother, Dale Lewis, has Afro-Jamaican roots. That heritage connected him to a powerful family line, including his grandfather, Arthur Winston Lewis, who served as U.S. ambassador to Sierra Leone. But growing up in a mostly white suburb and later rising in a scene often viewed as overwhelmingly white, Pete often existed in a strange middle space visible to everyone yet not fully seen. That quiet tension helped shape the sharpness in his writing. Fall Out Boy songs were loud, clever, wounded, and sarcastic, almost like diary pages set on fire. Pete did not build his career by fitting neatly into one category. He built it by turning contradiction into style. Behind the pop-punk fame was a man carrying Afro-Jamaican heritage through a world that rarely expected it from him. And maybe that is what made his voice stand out, the feeling of someone who knew what it meant to be misunderstood, then turned that feeling into an anthem. Number 8. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey did not enter pop music like a normal singer. She arrived like a vocal phenomenon, hitting notes so high they seemed to belong to another planet. The industry saw the perfect superstar, glamorous, marketable, almost unreal. But behind the diamond voice and the sparkling image was a childhood marked by rejection, confusion, and a painful question. Where does a mixed-race girl belong when everyone wants her to choose one side? Mariah was born in New York to Patricia Hickey, a white Irish-American opera singer, and Alfred Roy Carey, an aeronautical engineer with African-American and Afro-Venezuelan roots. Their interracial marriage brought cruelty into the family's life. Mariah has spoken about racism isolation and the feeling of being treated as too black in some spaces and not black enough in others. Long before the world called her a diva, she was a child learning that even family, neighbors, and strangers could turn identity into a battlefield. When fame arrived, the confusion did not disappear. Record executives often presented her in a way that kept her race soft-polished and commercially safe. But Mariah's voice carried the truth louder than any marketing plan. Soul, gospel, R&B, pop, she blended it all because she was never just one thing. Her story is glittering, but also quietly heartbreaking, a woman who became one of the biggest stars in history while fighting not to have pieces of herself erased. Number 9. Vin Diesel. For millions of movie fans, Vin Diesel is the ultimate action hero. He is the gravelly voice behind Dominic Toretto, the man who turned family fast cars and impossible stunts into a billion-dollar franchise. On screen, he looks larger than life, a force of nature who never backs down from a fight. But off-screen, one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Vin Diesel was not a movie plot. It was his own identity. Born Mark Sinclair in California, Diesel grew up without knowing his biological father. The man who raised him was Irving H. Vincent, an African-American acting instructor and theater manager who became the most important male figure in his life. Surrounded by artists, actors, and storytellers in New York City, Diesel developed a deep appreciation for cultures that extended far beyond simple racial categories. Yet as he began pursuing acting, Hollywood kept demanding an answer to a question he could never fit neatly into "What are you?" The frustration eventually pushed him to create Multifacial, a short film inspired by his own experiences being rejected for roles because casting directors could not easily classify him. He was often told he was not white enough for certain parts and not black enough for others. Instead of accepting those limits, he turned them into fuel. That decision changed everything. The film caught the attention of Steven Spielberg and opened doors that would transform his career. Vin Diesel's story is not just about becoming an action star. It is about refusing to let other people define your identity, then building an empire powerful enough to make those labels irrelevant. Number 10. Troian Bellisario. Troian Bellisario entered millions of homes as Spencer Hastings on Pretty Little Liars, the brilliant perfectionist with sharp eyes, sharper secrets, and the kind of pressure that could crack anyone in silence. On screen, she looked like the polished daughter of privilege surrounded by mystery, wealth, and danger. But away from the fictional town of Rosewood, Troian carried a real identity that many viewers never fully saw. Born into a Hollywood family, Troian is the daughter of producer Donald P. Bellisario, who has Italian and Serbian roots, and Deborah Pratt, an African-American and Creole actress, writer, and producer. Because of her appearance and famous last name, many people assumed she was simply white or European. But her heritage was always more layered than the surface suggested, shaped by both Hollywood privilege and the quiet weight of being misunderstood. That complexity helped fuel her work beyond teen fame. Troian later wrote and produced Feed, a deeply personal film about perfectionism, control, and inner pain, reflecting struggles she had faced in her own life. Her story is not a loud headline or a scandal designed for tabloids. It is more subtle, a woman who grew up inside the entertainment machine while carrying a background the machine often failed to recognize. Troian Bellisario is proof that some identities are not hidden because people deny them, but because the world is too lazy to look closer. Number 11. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Before he became one of the highest-paid actors on the planet, before the blockbuster movies sold out arenas and global fame, Dwayne Johnson was a kid who never felt like he fully belonged anywhere. Today, the world knows him simply as The Rock, a mountain of charisma and confidence. But growing up was far less glamorous. His family moved constantly, money was often tight, and his identity seemed to confuse almost everyone he met. Johnson was born to Rocky Johnson, a groundbreaking Black Canadian wrestler, and Ata Maivia, the daughter of a legendary Samoan wrestling family. That combination gave him a heritage unlike almost anyone around him. Some assumed he was black. Others thought he was Latino Middle Eastern or something else entirely. As a teenager, he often found himself explaining who he was to people who had already made up their minds. At times, he described feeling caught between worlds accepted by neither side completely. What makes his story powerful is that he eventually stopped trying to choose. In professional wrestling, he transformed himself into The Rock, a larger-than-life figure who embraced every piece of his background. The confidence audiences saw was built on years of uncertainty, rejection, and struggle. Today, Johnson proudly celebrates both his Black and Samoan roots, carrying the legacy of two remarkable families wherever he goes. Behind the action star muscles and billion-dollar success is a simple truth: one of the most recognizable men on Earth became unstoppable the moment he stopped letting others define who he was. Number 12. Rashida Jones. For years, audiences knew Rashida Jones as the effortlessly charming woman from The Office and Parks and Recreation. She was witty, intelligent, and seemed to fit naturally into almost any role. Yet despite growing up as the daughter of one of the most famous black men in music history, many people were genuinely surprised to learn that Rashida Jones is biracial. That reaction says as much about society as it does about her story. Rashida was born to legendary music producer Quincy Jones and actress Peggy Lipton. Her father was one of the most influential African-American figures in entertainment, while her mother came from a Jewish family with Ashkenazi roots. Growing up in Los Angeles, Rashida lived between two rich cultural worlds. She attended Hebrew school, celebrated Jewish traditions, and at the same time remained deeply connected to her black heritage. Rather than seeing those identities as conflicting, she learned to embrace both. As she built her career, Rashida often found herself confronting assumptions based solely on appearance. Instead of allowing those misunderstandings to define her, she used them to broaden conversations about race, family, and identity. Her award-winning documentary, Quincy, offered an intimate look at her father's extraordinary life, while also reflecting her own journey. Rashida Jones represents a generation that refuses to fit neatly into a single category. Her story reminds us that heritage is often more complex, more interesting, and far richer than what the eye can see at first glance. Number 13. Meghan Markle. Long before royal titles, palace headlines, and global controversy, Meghan Markle was just another actress trying to survive Hollywood's impossible casting game. She had the talent, the ambition, and the determination. Yet there was one problem she could never solve. Depending on who was looking at her, she was considered either too black or not black enough. In an industry obsessed with labels, Meghan often found herself trapped somewhere in the middle. Born in Los Angeles, Meghan is the daughter of Doria Ragland, an African-American social worker and therapist, and Thomas Markle, a white Emmy Award-winning lighting director. Growing up, she was proud of both sides of her family, but the world around her seemed uncomfortable with that reality. Casting directors frequently struggled to place her into a category. She later revealed that she was often overlooked because she did not fit the traditional image of what Hollywood expected from either black or white actresses. Then came Prince Harry, and suddenly the questions about identity became international news. What had once been a personal experience was now being debated across newspapers, television screens, and social media around the world. Some headlines exposed ugly prejudices that many people believed belonged to the past. Through it all, Meghan remained vocal about embracing her mixed heritage rather than choosing one side over the other. Her story is not simply about becoming a duchess. It is about a woman who spent years navigating expectations, stereotypes, and public scrutiny before deciding that her greatest strength was the very thing others struggled to understand. Number 14. Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter looked like the kind of athlete New York was built to worship: calm under pressure, polished in front of cameras, and almost annoyingly perfect when the game was on the line. As captain of the Yankees, he became a symbol of discipline, championships, and clean American success. But behind that flawless pinstripe image was a childhood that taught him early how ugly people could become when race entered the room. Jeter was born to Charles Jeter, an African-American substance abuse counselor, and Dorothy Connors, a white woman with Irish and German roots. His parents met while serving in the U.S. Army, and their interracial marriage was not always accepted quietly. Growing up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Derek noticed the stares, the comments, and the strange way strangers reacted to his family. The world wanted him to be simple. His life was not. That tension could have made him bitter, but Jeter turned it into focus. Every insult, every sideways look, every attempt to shrink him into a label became part of the discipline that later defined him in Yankee Stadium. He did not shout his identity from a podium. He lived it with every swing, every dive, every impossible October moment. Derek Jeter's story is not just about baseball greatness. It is about a biracial kid who learned to stay composed while the world tried to make him feel divided. Number 15. Maya Rudolph. Maya Rudolph was practically born with music in the walls. Her mother was Minnie Riperton, the legendary black soul singer behind Lovin' You, and her father was Richard Rudolph, a Jewish-American composer and producer. But before Maya became one of the funniest women on television, she was a mixed-race girl searching for faces that looked like hers, wondering why the world always needed people to fit into one clean category. On Saturday Night Live, Maya became a human shapeshifter. She could turn a single facial expression into comedy. Gold slip into a celebrity impression, like a disguise, then break the room with one perfectly strange line. But underneath that humor was something deeper, the rhythm of her mother's musical legacy. The quiet ache of losing Minnie Riperton to cancer when Maya was still a child, and the strange loneliness of growing up between identities. That mixture became her superpower. Maya did not just make people laugh. She made herself impossible to box in. From comedy stages to film roles and her unforgettable portrayal of Kamala Harris, she carried her Black and Jewish heritage with warmth, wit, and emotional depth. Her story is funny, soulful, and quietly heartbreaking, the story of a woman who turned inherited pain music and identity into one of the most original voices in Hollywood. Number 16. Tracee Ellis Ross. Imagine growing up with one of the most famous women on the planet as your mother. For Tracee Ellis Ross, that woman was Diana Ross, the Motown superstar, whose voice helped define an era. Most people would assume that kind of family connection guarantees an easy path to success. In reality, it created a different challenge. How do you build your own identity when the shadow behind you is already legendary? Tracee was born to Diana Ross and music executive Robert Ellis Silberstein, giving her both African-American and Jewish heritage. From the outside, her life looked glamorous, filled with celebrity connections and opportunities. But inside that world, she faced the same questions many biracial people experience. Who are you beyond your last name? Which parts of your identity do people see, and which parts do they ignore? Instead of letting those questions define her, Tracee transformed them into confidence. Her breakthrough came not through music, but through acting. In Girlfriends and later Blackish, she became a voice for modern conversations about race, family, and identity. What audiences connected with was not just her talent, but her authenticity. She never tried to become another Diana Ross. She became the first Tracee Ellis Ross. Today, she stands as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses and entrepreneurs, proving that heritage may open a door, but character is what keeps you in the room. Her story is about finding your own spotlight when the brightest star in the sky happens to be your mother.